This is the Ag Committee, right?
Yeah. I was just fixing to say, and the chairman is non-technological.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about some new technology then.
Y'all, it's 4 o'clock. I appreciate especially all the members staying around so we can get a quorum. First off, I'd like to ask Danny Mathis if he'd say a blessing for this bunch, please.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for everyone here today. We just ask that you be with us in this meeting, that we do what's good for the state of Georgia, the folks of the state of Georgia, and what's pleasing to you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
This is the first Ag Committee we've had this year. I guess we're fixing to take a little short break, longer than ever one I've ever been through. But before we get started, we have a new member, Bill Yerter from Sylvester. Thank you, sir. And I hadn't introduced the committee yet to our intern, Nathan. He told me how to say his name, Azorowitz. Azorowitz. He goes to West Georgia, and he is a Marine. So we appreciate you staying with us. David is busy in appropriations, so we stole Abby Day from transportation today to keep us straight. And all of y'all know the boss of the office. We're glad to see Commissioner Black. It's not an 8 o'clock meeting in the morning, and he made it on time today. Thank you for coming. Sir, we appreciate it. We appreciate you. So without any other time wasting, you want to do your mass timber bill?
I do. Let's do House Bill 777.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you today House Bill 777. As you know, the International Building Code, the 2021 code that has been adopted by the International Building Code, allows for taller buildings to be built out of mass timber. And basically, that's a new technology that allows them to cross-laminate. It gives them the strength they need to go taller buildings. And basically, all we're doing with this bill is just asking that the Department of Community Affairs review the 2021 International Building Code as it refers to tall mass timber buildings, and then consider their findings with approval of their code board to see if Georgia could go ahead and amend their codes to allow for this. So we're just asking them to review it, consider it, and then if approved, go ahead and adopt it. That's basically all we're doing with this bill, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any questions for Representative Corbett? Chairman Corbett, excuse me. If not, I'll entertain a motion. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would like to add, I think on the next Monday, anybody that's here on the Ag Committee, we do have a tour set up. Tom Byer here. Yes, would you like to talk about
Tom,
that
stand
a
up
little bit?
Explain all that.
Thank you, Representative Corbett. Everyone on the Ag Committee should have gotten an email on this, but I'm going to send out a reminder. Of course, with the changed schedule, a lot of y'all might not be in town anymore, but if you're in town on this coming Monday afternoon, the 10th, we've got a tour set up to tour the T3 building, which is a mass timber structure in Atlanta. Of course, it's a 6-story building, which is what our upper limit out of wood is right now, but it'll still give you the idea to see the concept. And you haven't seen one of these buildings until you've seen them in person. You can look at pictures and it's good, but this, for anyone that wants to and is around, this would be a good tour opportunity. And I'll resend the invite so it's at the top of everyone's inboxes.
Can we open it up to anybody in the house? I mean, what's it limited to if we don't?
Yeah, there's real no true limit, but yeah, anyone who wants to come can.
Anybody that can, I advise.
Yeah.
Recommend taking the tour.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us where,
Thank you.
Tom, tell us where it is.
It's in Atlantic Station, Midtown, kind of near the IKEA. You probably would never notice it was a mass timber building from the outside just because it's got a facade, but it's beautiful on the inside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Chairman Corbett has one more little bill that we have been working on for, I don't know how long. This is the 87th version of the 47th substitute to hemp production in the state of Georgia. So, John, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 847. I think, is this just a hearing only, correct? I mean, we just got this hot off the press about lunchtime, and it's LC 441395S is the bill. And basically what we're doing with this bill, we're trying to clean up some language from last year, some stuff, some unintended consequences from the bill we passed last year, some other stuff we needed to do to get us in compliance with the USDA's rules and regs, for us to be able to get a processors or get licensed to be able to grow hemp here in Georgia. So we'll kind of walk through, the few changes we've got in here, and if there's any questions. And I know we've got some a lot of emails and stuff, and some people might want to comment on some things. But we're going to meet again and probably try to come back as soon as we go back in session, the 18th or pretty quick thereafter, with a bill to be ready to move. So, if you will, on page 1.
John, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Do you want to go through the whole bill and then go back and add in some of the changes that we've been meeting on for the last 3 hours, or how do you want to do it? It doesn't matter to me.
Well, I wasn't in on all of those changes. I was in another meeting. I didn't get to talk about all of those. We can have other.
You want to add them in as we go so you can keep up with it, or?
I will need some help with that, because I think
I know,
you recorded that. So yes, that'd be good if that's the will of the committee.
To add them in?
To add them in as
Okay.
at the will of the chairman.
I'm just trying to keep you happy and me unconfused, and we're gonna have to call on some folks in the audience probably.
I'm like you. I've met with so many lawyers over the last few weeks. I don't know which way we're going here, but we're getting there. I think we about got everybody on the same page.
I
so.
appreciate Senator Harper for coming over here and helping us with this too.
I'm just making sure the house is in line.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
he needs to visit the upper chamber sometime. All right. Well, I'll go through, and you've got. Okay. All right. One of the requirements that the USDA, they wanted to change the definition we had of hemp in the original bill, and that's what we're doing on line 14. We basically used the languages in the 2014 Farm Bill, and they wanted that changed. Yeah, brings it in line with the federal definition.
All right, some of the changes that we talked about was on line 15. And probably should have printed this sheet out from the University of Georgia on some stuff so y'all would have it in front of you, but it gets confusing, huh? Well, I've written all over this one, but it gets kind of confusing when you look. There's not a section 4 right there on line 15, between 15 and 16, and it talks about the handling. And if you'll look back at the original bill, tell me, Camila, if I'm not doing this right.
Do we have a copy of the original bill in the packet? We don't, do we?
I'll tell you what, do. Let's get everybody a copy of the original bill, and everybody a copy of the university language would make it easier.
Yes.
While you go through the bill, and then we'll go back and add.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then working with the Prosecuting Attorneys Council and the GBI and everything on lines 23 through 26, that was changed basically to the definition of hemp products. Under this definition, you can still a processor can still handle, possess the green leafy material. But what this does, it eliminates it from being to have the green leafy material in a 7-Eleven or convenience store or whatever. It basically eliminates the green leafy material, makes it easier for them to make cases if they stop somebody. They don't have to question if it's 0.3 or 18%. on the page 2, line 27, just defines what a key participant is, and later in the bill, some of the changes that USDA requires to have, background checks as far as fingerprints, and this basically spells out who the key participants are and who wouldn't have to require to have the background check with the fingerprints. So that's what that definition we're doing there.
Chairman Corbett, so look at the original bill that we worked on last year. It was much more inclusive than this is on key participant. I mean, I think this is just, if I'm not mistaken, it's really just the owner. And I think we were saying that anybody who worked in that facility or, had access to it, I thought we're talking about the medical marijuana thing, but is that, having, I think the public would like to see that desire of, just like we did on the medical marijuana thing, very clean, legal world around it of people who are not convicted of drug-related offenses working in this.
I think in the original bill, you couldn't even have a misdemeanor. Isn't that right? I don't have the original bill in front of me on the background check.
Yeah.
And this basically, I guess, spelling out who needs to have that background. Yeah, and that's the other thing it deals with. Like you have an investor in the company, they have nothing to do with the actual day-to-day operations, whatever. You wouldn't require them to be fingerprinted.
But you're not including workers, everybody that works there, handles it, or anything like that.
I don't think this language covers that. Is that correct? No.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Thank you, Chairman. On the lines 23 through 26, in the event that somebody did have possession of the leafy material, would they be potentially in violation of the law under current marijuana statute?
yeah, if you don't have a license in the old bill, if you didn't have a license or a permit, you could be prosecuted under Title 16. We just didn't have in there what that punishment would be. It's illegal now
Sure.
to do that.
But I mean, as far as when we add this language, I guess it's clarifying in reaction to some of the prosecutors around the state who have said they're having a harder time prosecuting marijuana possession cases as a result.
Let me defer that question to my GBI person.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Committee, thank you so much. My name is Deneen Kilcrease. I'm with the GBI Crime Lab, and the unit that I oversee handles drug testing for pills, powders, liquids, leafy materials to see if these compounds are in violation of the Controlled Substances Act. So to answer, can you repeat the question that you had? Sorry.
Sure. Are we adding this language to clarify? You know, we've had in the news, we've read reports. Certain prosecutors in certain counties were having a difficult time prosecuting marijuana possession cases because they didn't have a way of differentiating hemp from marijuana. My solicitor, for example, said I can still prosecute these cases because there's other type of evidence I can point to, circumstantial evidence. If somebody's got a baggie of something, that's not going to be hemp, most likely. Is that what we're aiming at?
Okay, so yes, I understand your question. So chemically speaking, again, I'm not an attorney, I am a chemist. Chemically speaking, there is no difference between hemp and marijuana with the series of local testing that was being done, two-color test and a microscopic examination. So there is not a difference. So law enforcement did have trouble distinguishing whether the product was legal or whether it was illegal. And so the intent behind that language is to have a general person who's not going to have a grower permit and not have a permit, to not allow a general person to have the leafy substance on their person. This way, if law enforcement runs across a person who has a bag of leafy material on their person, then it doesn't have to be distinguished hemp or marijuana. It is exempt as a hemp product, and later in the bill it talks about it should be charged as 161330J. So the intent was to clear up that for law enforcement as well as the prosecutors.
So, and this is my first time reading this particular language, so you'll forgive me for not. These are questions out of ignorance, not trying to make a point. I'm trying to be more enlightened. If somebody had hemp leaves, is there any THC that would get them stoned or high in those leaves?
So it would depend on the purity of it. If it's below the 0.3%, the research suggests that no, there would not be a psychological high from that. If it's above the 0.3%, then it depends on how much would be there as to what the impacts would be. However, what this aims to do is eliminate the need to do that purity, to basically say all of the green, leafy, genus cannabis plant is not going to be allowed unless you have a permit.
Okay.
To grow, process, or something like that.
Are we aware of any other states that would allow for possession of the leafy material from hemp that would be low THC under that threshold?
I actually don't know of other state laws. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. I see some folks maybe nodding their head, and I don't know anybody in the audience, but I see some folks nodding their head, but maybe they can come testify later to that. So states that border us, so somebody driving through the state could potentially have a baggie of low THC leafy material, and they would be prosecuted under our marijuana laws if this becomes law?
That's what it sounds like to me from what I'm hearing. Again, that's a little outside of my territory.
If you don't have a license to have it.
Is it fair to prosecute somebody who has possession of something that's not going to get them stoned for having something that would in fact make them stoned?
That'd be up to the will of the committee.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions for now. I appreciate it. Let me take that little side.
Am I good?
I think for now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Corbett, on line 26, we add to the language, or a completely sterilized seed of which the plant is incapable of germination. Do we need to go a little bit further there to make sure that we're including language that has to be some kind of certification of the viability of that seed, whether it's sterile or not? In terms of if you're being stopped and you're being questioned and we're saying it has to be sterile.
You'd have to have some way to verify that.
Right. Any conversation that y'all?
We have not, but I will write that down. We're going to circle back up.
So what you saying, they need something saying that they are sterile and they're not taking them home and plant them, right?
Right, either in the original seed container from a seed company indicating the germ and the certificate from a germ lab.
Wouldn't it be true, Mr. Chairman, if they have a permit or a license, they have an out at that moment. It's those that don't have it that I think this covers.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
All right. Line 41, and this gets back to what is considered a processed product. You can't merely put just a green leafy material or dried material into a Ziploc bag and say that constitutes processing. So line 54 through 61, I think what we're doing here is clarifying where a licensee, which is a grower, will be able to, sell to other growers in another state that has an approved license or permit that's approved by the USDA. Some language we didn't have in the bill before. This just allows them to be able to if somebody in another state that has an approved plan and has all the necessary documentation, then a grower in Georgia can sell hemp to somebody in another state. 62. In this, the code section, I think that Janine was talking about, this 1613-30 is where we add the where it can be prosecuted, what they can be charged for if they have it without the license or permit.
Chairman Corbett, do you have someone here who can explain, give us a little overview of what 1630 is?
I do the prosecuting attorney's counsel.
Good afternoon. My name's Robert Smith. I'm General Counsel to the Prosecuting Attorney's Council. One of the changes in the reference is to move the punishment. The language as currently says, the current bill or the current law says that the sanctions for the violations are solely contained within the Title II, Chapter 23. Having a reference to people who do not have a hemp permit, therefore it puts in, and putting it in and putting it on the same level as marijuana, which is OCGA 161330. Now understand that when we charge someone with a violation of law by possessing marijuana under 161330, that does open up the ability to send someone through drug court, send someone to receive what's called a conditional discharge, and does not require always the punishment to be a felony. Less than an ounce means it's a misdemeanor. By referencing 161330, it gives a prosecutor all of those options and all those abilities to be able to appropriately find a resolution to charge the person and then provide appropriate sentencing.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony and making yourself available for questions. So, would a person who if it's legal in a different, this is let me give you a real world scenario. There was a case in Idaho I've been tracking very closely. As you know, I'm pretty passionate about civil asset forfeiture reform.
You have great passion for that, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a I have a real hard time when government takes people's property, especially when they think they're doing something legal. And in Idaho, there was a truckload of hemp that had been packaged up and crossed state lines on its way from one legal state to another. They were approved by the USDA, and local law enforcement in Idaho decided to seize the truck and everything on it. That is and hemp is a product that does not produce a high, but they have put this guy, this truck driver, who was just a truck driver, didn't even own the stuff. He just driving the material from one state to another through Idaho, through the ringer, seizing his assets and subjecting him to civil asset forfeiture proceedings. So would that be the case here? Would we be setting it up so that a product that would not get somebody high would potentially land them in some serious hot water?
If the person doesn't have a permit to legally possess it in Georgia, then they would be subject to the laws as enacted by the General Assembly.
And that would be this law.
That would be
So,
16.
yeah.
If this change
If
is
we
made,
do this.
if you may do this, it'll be 161330.
So we would be
Someone-
treating hemp this equivalent to marijuana and those types of cases.
if you don't have
The permit.
the permit.
Okay.
Further in the bill,
Yeah.
Scott, there's the stuff that when you're transporting the hemp, the bill of lading, name, origin, where it's going, where it's coming from, the certification on the testing of it, it has to be, less than .3. You got all to have that paperwork documentation with you when you're transporting the hemp. That's further in the bill.
Which would
If they've got all the right documentation with them, should not be an issue.
that won't be that would not be a crime if they are appropriately if it's appropriately labeled and they're appropriately licensed and traveling through the state.
Thank you.
No problem.
Is there any more questions on that part? All right, thank you, sir.
Dag.
All right. To and shall. All right, on 68 through 74, we added some language there to remove any doubt as far as University System of Georgia being able to, do research, test, contract with a third party. That's basically what we were clearing up there. There's been a lot of confusion over whether they could do that or not. So that was the intent of 68 through 74. Yes.
Line 65, or no, 64, 65. I'm just curious, as Representative Turner was, just curious what a culpable mental
Well,
state greater than negligence.
Well, that was if they're intended to break the law, they're doing it intentionally, basically. Gross negligent.
So we leave that up to the DA to determine, not that they have it, then they're gonna have to prove that they are, but
That's a pretty high bar when it sets it at that. And then I'd have to get my
that's a high bar?
get my attorney back up here to.
They told the lawyers they could say something.
Okay. That's just
I mean,
interesting legal language to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Patty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett,
where we at?
on line 73, it states such colleges and universities. I'm just curious to know the two land grant institutions.
That is your land grant institution.
Right. Do you know if what they're doing? Right, Fort Valley and UGA?
UGA.
Right. Are you aware of what they're doing now regarding any hemp research?
I know University of Georgia with Tim Coulon, they have had some trials over the summer. They've done some trials. I'm not sure about Fort Valley. I know we had a meeting with them in Perry when we did our joint ag committee down there, and they were interested. I don't know what they're doing, but they are authorized to do research under this.
Will it be just those two universities that would be authorized to do
Yes,
hemp
they're
research,
the only
or
two
any
they're the only
university?
two land grant
Okay,
institutions.
so it has to be a land grant institution. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Go ahead.
No,
Oh, Winfred, you got,
that's in the original, but this is just the changes. But in the original bill, it specifies out.
Okay, so I know, but I guess when it got over to the Senate, they changed the language and just made it be a land grant institution that could do research in hemp. Why would you restrict anybody else from being able to perform research since the industry is so?
I think what they're doing is the production of hemp, the research on the production, not what the end product is.
That's a very interesting observation when he said that land grants agriculture, but the hemp product, I'm a contractor. We're talking with people about Hemp Creek, how you build blocks out of it. That's not going to be taking place over at how you make a concrete block at Fort Valley or the University of Georgia. I missed it when it came back because we were very cognitive to make sure that every institution had an opportunity to participate if that's what they chose to do.
I think what this part of the bill's talking about is doing the research on the production of the plants.
Yeah, I think
Which
like
is what land grants do.
Georgia Tech and others can do
Yeah.
research on,
Yeah.
on uses and
Right.
whatever. If I
And what this is allowing, and we're gonna change the language if y'all are amenable to it, to make it more suitable than what's written right here.
Okay.
But this is allowing the land grant colleges to work with private individuals and do on-farm testing or whatever as far as on-farm research, as far as what varieties, what strains, and what the genetics to keep the THC low, plus grow a good plant and make whatever the flower is or whatever you growing it for, whether it be for hemp, fiber production to make concrete out of, or flower production to make CBD.
Okay.
Which one are you, Rick?
I'm 6. Just following, I think, Representative Duke's question there. Does this allow MCG? I mean, if they wanted to do research on the uses, I guess you got consumer uses, they would then contract with the land grant or the university system. Or Mercer. How do they enter into this ability to research uses. That's what we can clarify that. I mean, I think they needs to be a
Rick-
window for them to do that.
Chairman Jasper, I'm being told from behind me, and I'm trying to remember the original bill. I think the original language says the colleges with the university systems of Georgia, not it doesn't specify land grant. I was corrected. So it allows all colleges to be able to do that.
Well,
That's
I guess what I'd say, Mr.
So I
Chairman, is I'd
stand
love
corrected.
to see the language improved a little bit, that Emory, Mercer, some of our private could do. It may already be there, but in this other sheet, but
See if that suits.
see if that suits me. All right, yes, sir.
Or if you got heartburn over that, we'll fix it while we're fixing.
Fix it when you fix it.
Chairman Court, go ahead while he's reading that.
don't we have appropriations meeting to go to?
I thought there was an education meeting.
The language on the land grant versus university system, Georgia, make sure. It's clear that it says college. And university system of Georgia is what it says. So I think it's all inclusive. We're good. Yeah. We're ready? All right, line 79, basically what we're doing here, we left out the ability of a nursery or a greenhouse grower to be able to sell to other growers. And that's basically what that does. Unless you're selling to another grower, you have to have a contract with a processor. But if you're growing the plants, you can sell it to a grower without having a contract with a processor if you're just growing plants. Then lines 83, basically through 97, you're talking about the criminal, background check. You got to do it within so many days prior to the application. And 89 through 97 is basically the fingerprinting process that it requires. In this case, for the growers. And then on lines 102 through 116, I think this deals with the background check for a processor for the permitting. The background check there. And then line 119, we changed the annual renewal. We left the yearly, the first year at 25,000, and we raised the renewal to 50,000 per year. And what we're doing here, if we changed, trying to be able to show that we got the financial ability to for the program to pay for itself, and this is the number that we've talked about and come up with, and we think with that number is sustainable to be able where the program can support itself. And then based in section 5, we talk about the transportation piece, and then all the requirements, documentation that you have to have, name, address of owner of the hemp, point of origin, point of delivery, kind and quantity, packages, date of shipment, then it goes down in bill of lading and everything else that you're required to have with you. Back to your question, Scott, if they don't have all this documentation with them, then they're transporting it illegally. But if they've got this, we should not be an issue like they had in Idaho. And then 166, the last section 6, basically we are talking about doing a composite test sample in a field. Every GPS coordinates that you turn in as a field, you have to do a composite sample in that field, and then if it comes in, if it fails the test, if it comes in high, that GPS coordinates have to be destroyed and not the whole field, kind of deal. But it sets up a way where you can do a composite sample in the field, and it gets back in 174. Originally, we had language in the bill if it come in 0.33 and not over 0.33 and less, you could do a retest. But I think under the USDA's guidelines, that's not an option. So we basically took that out, and we're going to remove section 3 altogether. It's kind of redundant because it talked about the retest, so we accidentally left that in there. So that will be coming out on the retest. And then 183 to 190 is talking about you're doing a test in a processing facility. talks about that, and make sure it's in compliance, and if it's over .3, it has to be, destroyed, if they fail that. And then, 198, department shall additionally comply with all federal inspection, reporting, and auditing requirements. I mean, that's basically the bill, and I know y'all talked about it, but 6 different amendments we're talking about, Mr. Chairman. Do you want to go through those now, or if anybody got any questions over that last part, the fingerprinting and?
Go ahead, Patty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, I was reading section, lines 117, where it referenced the hemp processor permit. Permit shall be issued for 1 calendar year at an annual permit fee of $25,000.
That's correct.
And then after that,
After that,
it goes up to $50,000.
Renewal goes to 50 in the, the next second, third, fourth consecutive years after that.
And so every year after that, it's 50,000.
50, yes.
And so that's just for the hemp
Processor.
processor.
For
What
the
about
processor. It did not change for the grower. It's
That's
still,
what I wanted to get to.
$50 per acre for the grower, and a greenhouse operation. We left that out last year, but they fall under the grower's license. So there's a $50 acre with a cap of $5,000 on the grower.
I'm just curious to know, how did you get from 25 to 50,000 on the fees?
Well, with talking with all involved parties, Department of Ag, and everything, that's a number we come up with. We think we can, where the program will basically pay for itself, sustain itself, especially with the budget issues where we're at this year. I mean, we was all over the place. We was anywhere from 50 to 100,000 at one time, and we settled back at 50. We thought that we'd be able to sustain the program at that. It'll pay for itself, and we won't have to, be appropriating money.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, are you 10 or is that Winfrey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, I think you mentioned a number what was the federally defined THC level for hemp?
It's
.3?
Point 3 is the federal or less. But originally in our bill last year, we was gonna let, if it's .33 or less, you could do a retest. And if it come in at under .3, you was good, but if it didn't, you'd have to destroy it. But that's not an option under the USDA guidelines. Under there's testing, it requires it if it comes in over that.
Can you describe the technology or the process at all, or if you can't, so maybe somebody can,
There's
for the process?
some people much smarter than I that talk
For
about
the test?
Janine, our GI can talk about that test.
Okay.
Talk about the Delta 9 test or the total THC, and that's what they require in the USDA's requirements is the total THC.
So if we have tests that can tell us with certainty whether the plant is less than a .3 THC level, why are prosecutors having a hard time with distinguishing between marijuana
I
and
think
hemp?
it's the sheer number that they would have to process. I mean, you just don't have the manpower or the machines to do that. They don't have a field test. They've got a field test now that will tell you, yeah, it's got THC, or no, it doesn't. Now, it doesn't know if it's got .3 or 18.
Do you have any idea what the cost and time of a test like that would be?
I do not. Somebody in the room might.
Thank you. I would be interested in knowing that if anybody does know.
65,000 for high performance liquid chromatography, which is what GBI uses to do it. That's the machine.
That's the machine or the test?
That's the machine itself.
Okay, so how much does it cost to perform a test?
After you do the equipment, it's about $80 per sample.
$80 per sample. Thank you. I said that repeated so that it'd be on the record there. Thank you.
Number 2.
Chairman Corbett, are there any farmers interested in getting into this?
Let me. I get calls every day, and I can tell you, Bo Warren and is it Dave Evans with Ag and the commissioner and all of representatives. Again, when we get flooded with calls, tons of calls. There's a huge interest in.
Do they really understand the process?
It's going to be a learning curve. I mean, they've got to do their with everything that's new. There's going to be a learning curve, and my advice to everybody: start out slow. I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket, but we're trying to give them another option. Right now, they're they want another option, and this will provide them an option to grow another crop, and then it's like any other commodity. You gonna make money, and there's some years you might not.
Well, I'm a farmer, and I don't know that I'd want to jump into this right now.
Representative Hogan, it's like I told the governor the other day, it's not our job to make a crop production decision for a farmer, but it is our job to give the farmer the opportunity to make that decision to legally grow another crop in the state of Georgia.
I appreciate that.
And that's what we're trying to do with this. Rick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, I just on the line 119, the $50,000 annual renewal. Has there been any consideration looking at, and this might be in Chairman Harrell's committee, on a tax or a fee on the product or per ounce sale? Because this seems to just almost, I mean, it's a pretty high bar, someone said a minute ago, to limit it to Georgia producers to be able to sustain this, or a smaller producer. It
But
really puts them out.
I
to
think
out of state.
that would be a good option going forward, but I mean, for processors to be able to get into the business, I think the initial equipment cost is up in the couple $1 million.
No,
just
it's not though.
for the
We
for,
have.
for
I've
process.
got a guy that's working out of Gordon County in Tennessee that's not near nothing like that. But I think this kind of limits it to people who are out of state. And I guess I'm more concerned about in-state growers and Georgia farmer being able to create a business out of being a hemp processor, not a out-of-state entity.
That's definitely an option going forward.
Whenever.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That also gives me some concern because we limited the people who can get into it as a processor. But I am encouraged by the fact that we did need to adjust something there, because if we can't have the money to test it, then we can't produce it. I think when the bill left this house, or left the House and went over to the Senate, I believe they lowered the price such that you did for an acre until it was not fiscally sustainable. I'm so glad the senator is here today. Maybe they can learn a few things from you, Mr. Chairman. But maybe there might need to be a bigger mix between how much per acre. You don't want to put the farmer out. You want to make it attractive so that farmers can get in, but you also want to make it attractive so that even if people were not into a massive production processing piece, that they could, because you do have small processors. I met people who actually, some people in Tennessee actually process out of a house out of the basement.
I'm glad you clarified that was Tennessee.
But he's making about $3,000 a week, so
They might better test that for a little.
yeah, they might have to. Well, it's like you say, Mr. Chairman, it's Tennessee, and then here in Georgia it's the Senate. But thank God for the House.
We are, keep in mind, we are talking about hemp here.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, who is 7? Dominic, that's you? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, you may have mentioned this, but I was trying to clarify a few things for Chair Lady Darling here. But no, we talked about doing a greenhouse where the greenhouses are licensed differently, and there was a fee just for the greenhouse part.
We did. We had it about double the bill going back and adding that. But what would have happened then? We're going to have to change our permit application with USDA, and I'd start that whole process over. So that's why we decided to let them operate under a grower's license. Because if we added that third classification,
Oh.
We're gonna have to
Well, I
restart
don't
that
think
process
they-
over applying for the permit.
Yeah, they probably don't care as long as
No,
they.
they're probably happy the way it is.
Yeah, they'll probably be happy to do it
Well,
under the
we
growers.
didn't want to start that clock over, and it might.
But the other
put it out.
question that they asked earlier today when we were on the phone was just to be sure that if someone chooses to be in the greenhouse part of this business and they have plants to clone from and I don't know if that's germinate, promulgate, or whatever they do to sprig those plants, but they can basically, they're open for business, and a grower and processor can reach out to them and just sell them their plants. That there's, you know, as long as they're licensed
That's
through a
right.
grower's license, that they don't have to be somehow specially identified, certified
All they need is a grower's license.
grower's license, and people can drive up and say, I want 25,000
and
plants.
And we waive the requirement for them to have a contract with a processor because they're selling to another grower.
Okay, I
So
got you.
They don't need to have
Another
a
licensed grower.
Another the grower
Right.
has to have a license.
That's right.
Which would have to have a contract with a processor.
That's right. Okay, that's the two questions that we got this morning. You had already answered the other 5,000 that they had.
Steve?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, just for clarification, excuse me, can a greenhouse operator transport those plants out of state?
Yes, this gives them the ability to do that. If who they're transporting it to, it's got to go to a grower in another state that has an approved plan with USDA. If it's another state that doesn't have an approved plan, they cannot do that.
Will that be part of the bill of lading for the shipper of the plants that they need to have in order to transport them across state lines?
I would say yes, but I'd refer that to my attorney, Mr. Higbee.
Okay.
Ms. Patty?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, back to the part of the cost for the license.
Yes.
Is there opportunity for multiple farmers to be processors to try to cover that $50,000 cost? They have to
Absolutely, they form a co-op.
Okay, they can?
And do
Okay.
that. There's nothing prohibiting them from forming a co-op and being totally integrated from growing the plants to processing it to selling the final product. So they can do that.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for the chairman? That chairman. You got one, Emery?
Let me ask you a question.
You want the number for the guy in Tennessee?
No, actually, prosecutors making 3,000 a week's more than 3 cents an hour like they make now. I was hunting in Kentucky this year, and you would see tobacco barns everywhere.
Yes.
And the first time you ever go hunting in Kentucky and you see everybody's barn on fire, you think, well, man, we need a good fire department here. And basically, you realize what they're doing. They're growing tobacco and they're, curing tobacco. But I noticed this year they're hauling hemp, hauling a lot of hemp.
They've been doing it since 2014.
Right. And with this, of course, there's cars following it as it falls off the little buggies. They have the plant and everything. I walked out, right out and picked up a little clump about this big. Now, with that not knowing their complete law and everything, does that have enough grind it up and for me to light it up and get high?
Without testing, I have no way of knowing. No way of knowing.
Now, all of a sudden, an officer comes up and sees me pick this up, which I did pick it up. I just thought, well, I have no use for it, but looked at it. I was wondering. Yeah, I wasn't your friend in Tennessee and made more than 3,000. But no, what I'm trying to ask is, here, we're gonna haul it pretty much the same way, from farm to barn. And with that, this was coming down public road, cutting over from one big 2,000 acre farm to barns, about a mile to 2 miles, and I saw a lot on the highways. And I'm just curious, because I know people are gonna pick it up, and I wouldn't know about testing. Are we gonna make it to where it's probable cause if somebody did pick it up? Are they gonna have equipment to test it and make sure that this is?
It gets back to the culpably with mentals, knowingly doing it with intent.
And I understand. I just watched a lot of people pick it up. Thinking about that. Well, thank you.
They drink a lot of bourbon out there too.
They really do. Trust me.
That's right.
See your friend.
Did you get satisfied, Emery,
I'm
about how big a sack you can tote behind the trailer?
just want to make sure I could have picked up a big sack.
All right, anybody else? All right, y'all, I apologize for not getting you these amendments to you. I should have put them in the folder, and I'm sorry. Some of them you're gonna have to have the original 213 to match up some of the numbers. And John was in another meeting, so there was about 6 or 8 of us sitting around trying to get this stuff worked out. And if I mess up, Camila, tell me when I do. I'm just gonna try to go through this line by line where we are. All right, look on this. We on 1395. Look on line 15, and then look on that little sheet that we gave you up at the very top where it says 223.3, paragraph 4. And I think y'all got the copy that I've been scribbling on. So, all right, let's look at the copy that's got the handwriting on it first. We need to add, if it suits the committee, on that second line of paragraph 4, the words "or permitted" after licensed. And then on 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, we need to add "or permitted" after licensed there. And then we need to insert this whole paragraph 4 into somewhere around line 15 where it will read 3, 4, and 5. And there wasn't any changes on LC 1395 from the original as passed 213 bill. That's why there's not a 4 in there. But we are putting a 4 back in. If that suits y'all. Anybody got any questions about that? If you do, I'll get somebody smarter than me to answer them. No, we up at the top yet. Yeah. So everybody, that suit everybody? All right, go to line 53. And this is kind of the same way. If you look at under 223.4 on the little sheet, where it says parentheses paragraph 2, we need to stick that language in right above, somewhere on line 53, 54, right above where the paragraph 3 is. And the original was in the old bill. And all of this language on the little sheet is USG language that they needed to be able to do the research that they need to be doing. Huh?
Right there where it says pursuant to the written agreement, I guess my, Lord, we love the university system of Georgia and all that. I think there needs to be an opportunity for Georgia's private colleges, Mercer, Emory, whoever. I mean, they're medical research institutions. I guess it's down here, right here, would be.
Where do we get there?
Huh?
Can you wait just a second till we get, or does it
I
fit
thought
in back up
well,
here where
I don't
you
know.
are?
I guess I'm thinking that we'd have to ask our legislative council what he thinks. Does it have to be kind of floated through all that?
I'm asking. I don't know.
I don't know. That's
I don't
what
know.
I'm at, looking at Paul over here. He says.
All of that is added right here.
Have you got a copy of this little sheet? Okay.
So what I'm asking is, let me just walk up there.
It would have to be added to
No, what I'm asking is, right here, I want to make sure we're including Georgia's private colleges. Let's say those. He made a good point.
Yeah, if the Senate hadn't messed it up.
Okay, okay.
We will have.
All right, Chairman Jasper wants to come back to that one. Look on line 68. And that's where we need to add in the language under the little paragraph, under the little B, parentheses B, down at the very bottom of the little page where it talks about colleges and universities. What this does is basically give the research institutions the ability to do on-farm research. Is basically what it does, and they have not had that opportunity to do that under the other bill, which is really where they get the real readings on the research at, is when they do on-farm research or whatever research they're doing, other than on a test plot at a college. And then on line 132, this is about the simplest one of the whole thing. We need to change 5940 to 1639. Yeah. And if you look back somewhere in the bill, we already did that. 5940 to 1639, and that's just a reference number on the federal law. So whenever Rick gets all his worked out, I'll ask y'all if that suits you, and if it does, I'll ask somebody to make a motion and maybe move this thing further down the road.
Mr. Chairman, on line 150, that same code section, there 5940, does that need to be changed as well?
Does it? Okay, yeah. On line 150. Is anywhere else in that that is?
I didn't see it, I don't think.
What motion do you need, Mr. Chairman, on the amendment?
To just accept these amendments.
So moved.
Well, let me get the language Rick's working on. He may be monkeying with the whole thing, I don't know.
You better call them more lawyers.
No.
Well, I make a motion, we move on whatever he's over there figuring out. We'll all finish at the same time. Sam's taking me to Ocean.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, excuse me, you gotta go?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I understand we do not need to change it on 150.
Okay. Leave it at 5940.
Leave it 5940. Mr. Chairman, on line 132, we need to change that back. No,
Okay.
not according to Ag Department. That needs to stay at 5940.
Okay, all right. So leave everything 5940 then. All right, Rick, what we doing?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, talking with legislative council, you know, the concept of making sure that a Mercer, a Emory, a Research could accept the product from a processor, he'll need some time to be able to kind of integrate that idea into this, because the way it's set up, it's really just set up for USG. Do what now? They are, well, they will. I mean, because it's specifically talking about commercial uses.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can we have that language ready at the next meeting and offered as amendment at the next
that's
meeting?
what I'm
I
saying.
mean,
I don't want to hold this up waiting on it, because he needs
No.
to look at it and
yeah,
find.
we need to get it right.
Yeah, and we're not gonna pass it out.
Yeah,
Well, I know, that's why I
Anyway.
think that's why I just need to give the legislative council time to, create another amendment that will be added or a substitute at the next meeting.
As long as it don't affect Fort Valley State, right?
We ain't studying
No.
about messing with folks.
No,
like
no,
that.
you're good.
All right, so let me
All the
ask you
funeral
this,
home.
Rick.
Yes, sir.
Does that negate all these other ones up
No,
here?
it shouldn't. No, sir.
All right, which one is it he's working on?
This, where, I think he's saying right here, we're just making sure that a private college, Mercer, Emory could accept from a processor, just like you're allowed from USG to accept from a processor.
So then,
It'd be an addition. Not trying to work anybody out, I just want to add that.
so then we don't need to do any of these until he gets the language right.
Proper, yes, sir.
That's what you're saying, right? Okay. All right. Is that okay with you, John?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, John. They may not want it. I won't give them the opportunity.
Well,
good
I
with it.
guess we're done, right?
They'll
Who
like
was
that.
Sam?
Sam.
Sam?
Chairman.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that, I agree with, Chairman Jaspers, cause our cooperative extension program has, really been cut, so we may need some other folks to help out with our research.
We, sincerely hope that this week and a half, we taking off is gonna refund some of that cuts to the, most important part of the whole budget. All right, all right, I guess whenever Paul gets the language worked out, and, we'll get it back to you, then we will hold this till, I'm gonna try to see if we can meet maybe whatever the 18th morning is. Tuesday morning.
7 o'clock.
I don't, 7 would suit me. But maybe 8:30, something like that, and get Rick's language finalized where we can add it back into LC 1395 and get this thing done. I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
How quick, Gary, Commissioner, I'm sorry, how quick do you need all this turned around where you can start? Is there any holdup in this for you to start issuing processor license?
No. We'll be ready. We'll be ready to go March 1. Yeah, for processor.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
Process licenses.
So-
The tail of the tape is running on the regulation. We got. Yeah, it's a couple more days than it's posted it.
So this week delay is not gonna monkey with any of that?
Not for processor.
That's right, that's what I'm asking.
Just having the application up online, I think, Mr. Chairman, one of the good things that does is at least is a step, and I appreciate Chairman Corbett. We talked Monday, and that is, I know we wanna try to get the money up and prove for the appropriations and all that, but if we go ahead and get started, then at least one element, we can quit telling people we're working on it.
We appreciate
I've been
what
doing
you
too
and
much
all
of
your
that lately,
staff
is
have.
telling people I'm working on it, and if somebody's gonna ask me when you gonna start.
Yeah, can you speak to that, or are y'all getting any calls, people interested in doing that?
I told y'all before that this phone is answered Georgia Department of Hemp. How may I help you? or at least it was for a while. No, there's been a lot of very interesting meetings, and there was a period of time as chairman, we kind of, no offense to, and it may actually, I don't think there's anybody in this room, but I mean, but the meetings and the requests were so much last year after we stopped meetings for about 90 days because there's nothing to meet about. And let's be calm and we'll communicate with you. That's when we set up the button on the website. So, you know, we will keep you updated. And we've sent out, I don't know, several. Bryce, we've sent out what 7 or 8, 5 or 6 notices throughout the time, keeping people posted. So,
anything you need to add?
When this is over, may I take 2 minutes and give you a Hurricane Michael update for block grant?
Well, we done with this till Tuesday.
Just got off call, and I'm sorry to step out, but it was just all matched up with Undersecretary Bill Northey, who's riding herd. Representative Meeks can laugh again because he looked at me a while ago when I said we're working on it. We're very, very, very close. For some of you we haven't talked about, and we can give you a little more detail once we get the go ahead. But everything dealing with Hurricane Michael is going to operate off of a platform called farmrecovery.com. Farmrecovery.com is not live, but what's coming right now is that once we get the go-ahead with USDA, once that takes place, we'll have there'll be a 3-week promotion period. We talked a little bit about that this morning at breakfast, but we cannot go forward. I cannot tell you what that date is until we have. USDA wants to look at the applications on the website one more time. And the Undersecretary assured me that I think that's within the week. So what's the best case scenario is, I don't know, news conference this time next week maybe. I don't know, but hang loose because we're going to let you. We've got really good support from Atlanta media, print, and TV and radio to help us get the word out. And we're going to be doing certainly media tours all over the district so that we make sure that everybody that can apply should. But it's been I just appreciate Bryce has done an outstanding job on this. In particular, the last 120 days, it's been. The back and forth has been pretty interesting set of negotiations, but it's been at the highest level. We've been, we have a doggone good plan. I'm confident of our ability but it's, for those of you who didn't know, it's $347 million. That's a lot of money. And we have a good management plan that I can share with you how we're going to administer it. We are going to run the operation out of Tifton. Not going to run it out of Atlanta. I'll give you maybe a little more details of how that's going to structure with some handouts next time. But I couldn't get him to say yes a while ago, but we're thinking close. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't think anybody knows how much time and effort you and your staff has put into getting that done, and it's going to help a lot of folks down southwest. So thank you. John, thank you for everything. All of y'all in the audience that has met some more on him. We appreciate it, and we will get it fixed. Thank y'all very much. And committee, I appreciate you staying. 4-H Day is tomorrow. If you're going to be around, you'll have some kids up here, but thank y'all very much for staying.